You're listening to Podcast PXN,
a video game podcast,
delivering player experience news.
Let's go! What is up, guys, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 296. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on still Twitter, and I'm joined over Discord by the Nintendo aficionado and hardcore casual himself, Roshan Warner at Roro.
Hello. Endure and survive.
Endure and survive. A little taste of what we're getting in the top of the show. And we're joined by the resident Embark Glazer and my fellow Spartan, Gage Dempster at Gilbo Biggins with two S's.
Endure and survive is starting to sound like the current objective for everybody on Earth.
Did you enjoy the Fallout TV series? Because you might just be living it soon.
Oh, God.
Christian will rejoin us maybe next week, but we will miss him. Thank you to everyone watching us live and participating in the chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/@podcastpxn and twitch.tv/podcastpxn as well. The topic of the show this week, guys, is our Last of Us Season 2 HBO series SPOILERCAST. We're going to go into all of our spoilerific thoughts on Season 2. But before we get there, since we ran so late last week, there was so much to cover last week, I have our results from our predictions for SGF, and I'm just going to run through them real quick here to see who won our SGF predictions.
Yeah, look at this smile on his face. You don't need to know. No. If you're watching the video stream, you don't need to wait around. You can find out who won.
I smiled because of your reaction. I've actually not calculated this yet. I'm reading this. I'm reading this for the first time with you guys. I promise you. My first prediction was the next Resident Evil will be revealed coming early 2026. That is a point.
Wow.
Right there.
That was a fucking bullseye, wasn't it, huh?
Hell yeah. Rose's first prediction was Persona 4 remake tease. Also a point.
Let's go.
Gage's first prediction is IO Interactive unveils Project 007 with a release window of fall 2026. Did they? I don't know.
Did they do it? I don't think they revealed a release date.
Okay. So is that a full point or a half a point?
Let's see. Wait. 007 first light release date. Let's see.
I think they did.
It just says 2026.
Just 2026. Okay. So is that a half a point or is 0.75 point or a 1? What are we scoring that?
That's up to you two. I recuse myself.
I want to give him a point.
You want to give him
Hell
the
yeah.
Okay, sure.
I want to go.
Sure, let's give him the point.
Just so it's points across the board so far. That'd be fun.
Let's go.
My second prediction was Hollow Knight Silk Song gets a stealth release after the Xbox event. Well, no, instead they just decided to fuck with people's minds by putting it in the Xbox handheld announcement. Rose's second prediction, Dying Light the Beast gets a release date. That is a point. That is a point.
That is a point.
Gage's second prediction, which I do believe I said there's no fucking way it's happening. Anyway, State of Decay 3 trailer, and it is coming in early 2026. It is not. And it was not. It was a no-show.
Oh.
Okay, my next one. We got a first look gameplay trailer for Gears of War E-Day coming fall 2026, right, guys? No, we didn't get it. Nothing. Rose next one is Playdead's game gets a small teaser. It did not.
It did not, sadly. One day.
Yeah,
One day it will.
one day. Gage's next prediction is a new Halo project gets announced with no release window and no time whatsoever. It did not get announced, sadly. Maybe in October at Halo Worlds. That's the rumors. My next one is Battlefield 6 campaign trailer gets shown off, and it is coming this October. We got literally nothing from Battlefield.
Not even an acknowledgement that it exists.
No. Insane, actually. Rose, next one. Kingdom Hearts 4 gets a brand new trailer with no release date. We did not get that.
It did not.
Did not get that. Gage's next one. Arc Raiders gets a trailer with a release date of July 2025. Dan gets goosebumps. He says, I did not get goosebumps. It's not releasing July 2025. So I did get a trailer.
We did get a trailer. That's half point.
Is that like 0.25 points? If you're doing the math here?
Oh, because of the Goosebumps thing? So
yeah.
It's 0.33, isn't it?
Or 0.33. Yeah, you want me to give you 0.33?
I want 0.33 on
All right,
board.
there you
Absolutely.
go. 0.33. Stupid. All right. The last prediction that I had was Halo shows up for the first time in a long time to promote a big fall update for Halo Infinite to essentially relaunch the game, finding out later it's coming to PS5. None of that happened. You said that I was smiling at the start there. I only got 1 point. 1 point. Ro, your last prediction is Katana Zero DLC gets a release window in 2026.
Did not happen.
Did not happen. I had to rely on you for that because I didn't remember that. But.
I was sitting here and I was like, "Fuck, I don't even know."
It did happen.
It did happen.
I don't think it did. Yeah.
Engage's last prediction: Steam will unveil the Steam Deck 2 with a release date, or release window rather, of 2026. Nothing.
Way off.
So you know what that means? That means Ro wins our predictions with 2 points. Gage in second with 1.33 points. And Dan
who's in last place?
In last with 1 point.
Let's fucking go.
1 point. I feel like if Christian
I don't care who wins. I just need Dan to lose.
If Christian was here, he would have probably said that you got a half point for that first one, and I would have agreed with him. And then you would have got 0.83.
To sit and wonder what may have been in an alternate universe.
Ultimate Spider-Man. All right. That is our SGF wrap up. All right. Moving into the topic of the show, The Last of Us HBO Season 2 finished up a few weeks ago, and we have a spoiler cast for you today to talk all about our thoughts on Season 2. Before we get there, though, real quick, there is a story that kind of goes with The Last of Us HBO. The composer that's behind HBO's The Last of Us series has strongly suggested that Season 4 is on the way. He said there'll be at least 2 more seasons, no question. He said it in an interview. At least. That's all I'm going to say. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. It's stressing at least. Like, does that mean they're going to continue the story after the games? Because there's no way there's more content than 2 more seasons, right? For the second game.
I'm of the opinion that even 2 seasons is kind of like 2 more seasons is still like stretching it a bit. Like I'm surprised that they're even. Yeah. It's surprising. I think that. I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
All right. Moving into the meat of it here. What are your guys's first? Let me just say, what are your guys's overall thoughts on the changes made to the series versus the games?
Before we get into this, can I actually, this was brought up to me by a listener of the show, friend of the show, Sheldon.
Okay.
He was asking, and I guess we can make an informed decision right now so he knows whether or not to click off. He was asking if we were going to discuss upcoming spoilers from the game. And that because he has not played the game. He's watching the series fresh.
Yeah. I would say only spoilers for the actual content that we watched.
Fair enough. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will not spoil upcoming plot points that have yet to be showcased. Okay.
But can we spoil? Okay, I understand what you're saying. We're not going to spoil upcoming moments in the game. Can we spoil changes in the game that were covered in this season? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
He's played.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't see them. Fair. Yeah, I don't see them like
not that crazy.
Yeah. Going back. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, what changes from the show, I guess, are we most upset about? I guess I have a twofold question. What changes are we most upset about, and what changes do we feel like maybe made it better? I hate to say better, but like, I don't know. Had
positive and negative changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, I guess I can just start it off. I think one of the biggest changes that I think is a really big negative for me, and it's something that, and again, I'm going to be careful because I want to respect Sheldon, and we're not going to talk about upcoming spoilers, but I am going to have to kind of dance around something.
Oh, okay. Sure.
One of the biggest changes that I think is very, very negative in my opinion, but something that is not apparent to anybody who hasn't played the game, is the changes that they made with Tommy. I think that Tommy kind of got a raw deal in the series, and it's I think maybe it just bugs me personally because I'm such a fan of the actor, and I thought he was one of the standout castings even from the first season. I thought that this actor Gabriel Luna just does such a great job of personifying that kind of vibe of Tommy, of this kind of, I'm a moral man and I try to follow my compass, and like he's a very good counter to like Joel, and he was a great counter in the game, and I think the original actor did a great job, and I think that the actor in the show does a great job, and they really put him on the back burner in the second season of the show. They changed a lot of things where his character feels like he lost a lot of agency and like a lot of drive, I guess, for, you know, what may or may not happen in the future. Like it's such a and it's one of those changes, like you and I talk about the Halo show at all. It's one of those really bad changes when it comes to an adaptation, where it's one where you're like, how is this better? Like what it seems like it was just, they just lessened the impact of, like, say, so okay, we're allowed to talk about spoilers of things that have happened in the show. Is that in the game, Tommy is the one who is with Joel when when Abby does her business, right? And that sort of creates this drive for Tommy to go out there and go after her. Mm-hmm. And in the show, not only does that not happen, but I thought that maybe, okay, we're going to do something completely different, but then they still off screen have him leave to go after Abby in Seattle after Ellie leaves. And it seems like this really weird, unfocused sort of like, what was your original, I would love to know the vision, and maybe we haven't seen that vision play out yet. But for me, that was just the biggest gripe, one of the biggest gripes for me this season. I thought that similar to what Christian had said on his critique of season 1, where, it seems like they maybe some of the showrunners are getting the basic concepts, but they're kind of missing some of the deeper themes of some of these characters and relationships. This seems like a one where it's like, this was really important in the game, and especially for if we're thinking about what season 4 of this show will look like. I'm for you two who've played the game and you know what will probably happen and some of the things that happens with Tommy. It's like how I don't know. Very, very strange. Very, very strange. That was my biggest gripe. That was my biggest takeaway of like a head scratcher for me.
I think, to your point, like Tommy, like I feel like I know what they were trying to do with Tommy, but then they didn't actually like take it to the point where they they needed to. Like the episode where Tommy is like looking over Joel's body and he's kind of like reminiscing or whatever. Like I feel like they didn't do enough to like explore those feelings that Tommy might have been having post Joel dying. Like essentially they glossed over that aspect, and like that to me would have been a very intriguing exploration for that episode instead of like the town hall that we got where it was basically it just was filler essentially. And I feel like it could have been an interesting exploration of Tommy going through like a difficult time dealing with his brother just dying and how traumatic that would have been. And to your point, like if they had followed what the games did and Tommy was there, that would have been even more traumatic for him actually being there to see it happen. And could have been even more powerful moment for them to add that kind of stuff where you're like, damn, Tommy's really dealing with some shit right now. And would have been like a cool change of pace from the rest of the series where it's supposed to be like a darker tone and you're dealing with the infected and all of that. That could have been an episode where you step away from that without it just feeling like filler, like the town hall moment felt like.
I just want to jump in real quick before Ro goes. I'm so glad that you brought that up because in a series that had a few big blockbuster emotional moments, like obviously episode 2 is supposed to be one that pulls on everybody's heartstrings. It is a devastating moment. Episode 6 is supposed to be a big moment. But for me, and again, this just goes to, and maybe it's personal bias because I really like Gabriel Luna, but to me, that moment you're talking about, that scene was maybe like a minute long.
Yeah.
A minute, like it was a very, very short scene. That was one of the most powerful emotional moments for me, is that tiny little moment he shares when he's with Joel's corpse in the morgue. And he's what does he say? He says something brutal, like, you know, give Sarah my regards or something like that. I was like, man, if they had kept with the original story and had that in, that would have been one of those changes where it's like you understand it, you get it,
right?
Because that would have just even added to it, right? But then it's kind of like unfocused, where it's like you have this moment that like elevates the source material, and then you just completely deflate it later by completely changing this character's course. But I'm glad you brought that up. That to me, that was one of the standout moments. And again, super tiny scene, but man, he was doing so much. He was doing so much with so little. And that,
Going off of what Gage said before, I talk about the changes that I didn't like the season 1 had it too, where there were a lot of changes that were additive, like Gage said with Tommy. That could have been additive if they fix some other stuff as well. Like Isaac in this season, I thought them expanding on his backstory a little bit more and him having more scenes in the later episodes was cool. It wasn't like game changing or anything, but I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. I like seeing more of this character and where he came from. But similarly, where Gage didn't like how Tommy was changed around, I didn't like it myself either. But the Jesse and Dina stuff, the switching with those two characters really messed up the pacing for me in particular. And when I was watching it, like the earlier episodes, I was like, oh, this could be cool. Like I'm excited to see what they're going to do switching these characters. Here, like, okay, Tommy's here and Dina's over there. Like for me and for us, people who have watched or played the game rather, like this could be cool to keep us on our toes. Let's see how they play this story out without hopefully changing too much that it's a completely different thing. But the scene where Jesse is with Ellie at the weed store, like that stash area, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But it didn't like tip me off at when I first saw it. I was like, okay, that's interesting. They switched that out. But then later on, where Dina and Ellie are in the theater, that's where it's like, oh, so they're putting this all here.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just felt so rushed. Like if Dina was still had that moment, that intimate moment with Ellie at the weed stash, then you wouldn't have to put it here because I'm sure you still want to have it. And there's nothing wrong with that scene. It's just that it happens after Dina finds out that Ellie is immune. And then after Ellie finds out that she's immune, she tells her that she's pregnant, and then they start making out. It's like, this is just like way too fast.
Yeah.
And it just like loses all the impact that the original scene had. And Dina pulling a gun on Ellie, in my opinion, is like crazy character assassination that character wouldn't do, because in the game she was like, she risked her life to protect Ellie. Like she was about to risk her home.
Take off her mask, right?
Take off her mask to help Ellie. Like straight away, that's her go-to to like protect Ellie. And even in the show, I can't imagine that character also doing that. Like even the character that they have there, even if I were to think that they're two separate characters, which they are getting to, it still felt unbelievable to me that like Dina would like pull a gun on Ellie and just hold her like that for the entire night. But that's kind of the I guess the summary of this season, where characters that we've got to know don't feel like themselves because of these small changes, because they just add up and they're like, oh, this is changing. It's changing a lot, making me feel a little bit different.
Yeah.
But like I said, like there's some Isaac stuff that are like, oh, this is cool. There's some scenes that are additive, but a lot of the changes were like just had me scratching my head.
Yeah, and like I think tonally, like the show has struggled quite a bit too, because like Gage and I talked off air after that episode aired, where they come back to Ellie after Joel dies, and the whole town is like acting like nothing happened, like they're playing baseball and everybody's smiling, and it's like, did you not just fucking get like invaded by a bunch of fucking infected and a whole bunch of people died, and you know, like we're just gonna forget that whole moment happened? Like and like that's where my idea to Gage, which I think I said this on the previous episode, where it's like you could have had a moment where you like flash forwarded and Ellie was in a coma or something, and that might have been interesting to see, like that perspective switch from the game point of view, and you know, explore things like, well, people have moved on, but Ellie hasn't moved on because she's still living that moment that she feels like she just experienced, whereas everyone else has experienced time that has moved on. But it's insane to me that they literally just got attacked by infected, and then they're just like, yep, let's go play a baseball game. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so strange to me that I feel like there was such a... It's funny because it feels like shows are taking longer to make nowadays. Like we're having to wait like super long between seasons, but at the same time, simultaneously, it feels like shows are being rushed when it comes to the writing stage, when it comes to like thinking these things through. Like HBO used to be such, especially just recently watching Deadwood for the first time, which is another period piece that was on HBO. It takes place in the late 1800s. And I was talking to Christian about this off air, where I'm like, man, the vocabulary, you know, every extra has all this. Wardrobe is period accurate, and all the buildings and all this stuff. And it's like when I'm watching this, you guys decide to have this big attack on Jackson, which does not happen in the game. And people rightfully pointed out, this is not confirmed, but people rightfully pointed out that it seems like they threw this in there because people were complaining that there wasn't enough infected in the first season. So they kind of front load this season with this big fantastical attack on Jackson. But then they don't follow it up with the level of writing and thought that I think HBO is known for. In that, why when we cut back to Ellie and she's waking up and she goes back out into the town, why isn't half of the town saying, we're getting the fuck out of here, we're not safe anymore, right, this place is compromised? And then also, the same time the town was attacked by the Horde is also the same day that Joel died. So why aren't half of the people also saying, hey, these people that came and attacked us, how do we know that they didn't let the Horde in? Like, there's so much... I'm not gonna say smarter writer because I'm an ape and I don't know what I'm talking about, but like I feel like there should be people in the writing. Maybe it's not having enough writers, right, and not having enough people look at this thing where it's like, if you wanted to make that big change, you should almost commit and like, okay, how do characters in this world that we're trying to make grounded and realistic, how would they react to this situation? And again, having Tommy sit down with the therapist and they're drinking beers out of a cooler and everybody's having a fun time. Like, this is not what I would think at all. I don't think it's what Neil Druckmann would do if Jackson got attacked in the game. I don't think it's, I don't think it's consistent with the quality of HBO of old. It's just very strange to me. And I think you're right. We were talking about, I think we can all agree that the 3-month wait is just a bizarre idea. It kind of doesn't make sense emotionally for Ellie to have this momentum lost, but also not lost. She's somehow been able to wait 3 months and she's still just as angry. It is a very bizarre choice, but it's even more bizarre to do this big shakeup and have her wait 3 months and then not capitalize on making that change and not really follow through with it. Just kind of say, like, you could have, like, that 3-month later splash screen, you could have done 3 days later and not changed anything, except it would have made a little bit more sense. I don't know. Very, very strange to me.
Yeah. One other thing, like, Ro, you were touching on Ellie and Dina as well, and just to add on to that, like, their relationship in general, I think, in this season doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, they haven't evolved their relationship. They just, like you were saying, kind of just spilled it all out at once, and then there it was. Like, there's not been an evolution to say, like, episode 1 they were here, 2 here, etc. Like, there, it was just like, oh, here's everything. Like, not a great way to, like, build a relationship between two characters.
Yeah, I like the unsaid subtlety, I guess, of the game, The Last of Us, and like the unsaid things that we kind of are able to fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
and I feel like almost more is they're saying more, but like still not delivering.
Right,
like the history between those two characters at the same time. Like, I don't know, but there's to touch on that point. Like, one of my favorite scenes is the flashback scene with Joel and Ellie on the porch and like having that conversation, like, I want to forgive you and all that kind of stuff. And in the show, I think it's still pretty powerful, but they also say too much as well in that scene, where, like, I think one of the most powerful things about Ellie and Joel's relationship, to my knowledge, I don't think they ever say, or Joel ever says to Ellie, that he loves her. And I think it's because we all know that he does. And I feel like that hits more. Like, he died without saying that, but Ellie knew that Joel loved him and all that kind of stuff. And when he said, I love you, that still hit, like, when I watched it with my mom, and like, it's like, oh, that's really cute. It's like, but I don't know if Joel would say that in this moment. And it just, like, he doesn't need to. At the same time, like, we know what he meant when I would do it all over again. Like that, I love that line in the game.
That's a powerful line in the game.
And
that
I think
really hits.
And he still says it in the show, which is like, all right, cut it there. So I don't know. They do a lot of talking in this show where they should stop at certain points.
Right. To your point, that is one of my bigger complaints. I guess maybe it is my biggest complaint over the Tommy thing. The Tommy thing just stuck out to me. But it's not quite to the point yet, but these things don't happen overnight. To me, I'm getting hints and I'm getting whiffs in the air of what happened to The Walking Dead, which is the soap opera-ification of what started off as a genre story. And again, we're not there yet. Like, it's the Last of Us TV show is not a lost cause by any stretch, but I'm getting the sense that we're slowly heading in that direction of, let's simplify things. Viewers really like this character, so let's have this character do things that the viewer likes. The viewers will really like this, and that's fine for some things. Like, if you're making Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that's a great strategy to write your show. But if you're writing a dramatic series where the season 1 finale is a character shooting up a hospital filled with good guys to protect his daughter. Maybe that's not the type of genre show that you should be doing. Well, characters really like this, and let's do this. And it touches not only on what you said, Ro, where characters are saying things out loud instead of letting the audience kind of read in the subtext and sort of infer things, which is what happens in the games, but also to what Dan said earlier with the mismatched tone of things, right? Where I like I said, I I booted up the game just to kind of see, I'm like, am I misremembering things or not? And the biggest difference with tone is the characterization of Ellie. And Ellie in the game, in the second game, I should preface, Ellie is not as much of a bratty asshole as she is in the show. She is withdrawn. She is somebody who's similar to Joel in the first game, which I'm guessing is on purpose because it's very poetic and it's just good writing. But like, she's withdrawn. She's with what happens with Joel and even before that with her immunity. But she's not a dick to people, right? She's opinionated and she's kind of quiet, and she loosens up a little bit with Dina, which really makes their relationship work in the game because Ellie is so cold with everybody else, but with Dina she kind of just slightly opens up a little bit. Whereas in the show, it's completely different. Like when her and Dina are alone, it's almost like it's a buddy cop adventure where they're just kind of, low stakes trotting across the country. And I don't get any sense of tension or anything. And I'm not gonna harp on it because it's kind of a meme, but there's one scene in particular where I caught myself rolling my eyes, which is when Dina's trying to triangulate where the wolves are, and they're having this weird little. Ellie's like, "Oh, I actually brought a protractor." "Oh, did you?" "No, I didn't, because I hate math. Math sucks." And I'm like, in the game, you were.
She's too
right
childish.
now,
yeah,
it's too childish. It's too lighthearted. It's like, I don't buy it. I don't buy that you're on a warpath right now. That nothing else matters to you except bringing the people that killed your surrogate father to justice. I don't buy it. To me, this seems like you just wanted out of. That's the biggest thing to me. The character of Ellie in the show, I'd be curious to know what people think that haven't played the game. It's like, it almost feels like she's just trying to get away from Jackson more than anything, and she's using hunting Abby as an excuse. Whereas in the game, there's no doubt in anyone's mind what Ellie's goal is.
Yeah.
So yeah, the writing, it feels very much like they're trying to write for what people want, as opposed to, like, you think of, like, I bring up this example a lot, but like you think of the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones. A lot. If a character was a fan favorite, it didn't mean shit, right? It did not mean anything to them surviving or to them doing cool things. It was what makes sense for the story. Did this character put themselves in a situation they can't get out of? Well, they're not getting out of that situation. That's the kind of writing that I prefer, and that I feel like the games kind of have for the most part. Whereas this season specifically, is just kind of like, well, people like seeing Ellie and Dina have fun together, so let's write a couple of scenes of there, and then it's like, I don't know. Throws the whole thing out of whack, I think.
Yeah. To circle back real quick to what you said, Ro, about like the things that people aren't saying and allowing the audience to interpret that. I wonder if, like, and this isn't to make an excuse for the show, but like, I wonder if some of what we're missing is those moments in the game where you're in the in-betweens when, you're not in a cutscene or you're not in a major plot moment and you're just having like a simple like back and forth with Dina if you're playing as Ellie. And like you miss those little moments that just like add up to be like a holistic view of your relationship with that person, because you're getting these little stories as you go, or you're getting these little quips back and forth as you go.
Yeah, I think absolutely we are. And sometimes they do those conversations, like Gage was alluding to, in times where it doesn't make sense to have those conversations, where like they should be on a warpath, like Gage is saying, because the time frame between them leaving and where they are now, walking in the streets, like it's a dangerous area. We don't have that, like, I don't know, we don't have, like you said, the time to have those conversations in a realistic way, but they still put them in at points that make me, I agree with Gage, like make it feel like it's like a field trip and they're not actually in this for the
Like lack of tension, almost.
yeah, the lack of tension, yeah. And then they bring up those tense moments and then you get whiplash. Like when there was a time like when she was talking about Dina was talking about her brother or her mother. I don't remember her family. And I thought that was cool, but I don't know what happened before it or after it. It just felt like shoehorned in at that moment. And I wish I could explain better because now it just sounds like I'm just complaining because I don't remember what happened, but I remember watching that scene and being like, oh, why'd you do that now? You know?
Right.
But yeah, I totally agree that there's just some stuff that works better in the game that they simply can't do in the show. But since they can't do it in the show, then they shouldn't do it in the show because they're also trying to do it, I feel like, at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think another good symptom of that whiplash you're talking about is that there is this bizarre, I think it happens all within one episode, where there's this scene that's not in the game, which again is not the marker for what's good or bad, but I'm just, again, it's another thing where it's like they deviated in a way that doesn't really make sense. But there's this scene where Jesse and Ellie are in the streets. I think they're trying to go rescue Tommy, and they come across these WLF soldiers that are like torturing a Scar, and Ellie tries to like jump in to save them, and Jesse has to stop her. And he's like, no, what are you doing? We don't have time for this. And she like resists him and really tries to go help this kid that she doesn't know. And then not like 10 minutes later, Jesse's like, the community didn't want this. And she's like, fuck the community. And I'm like, you were just about to risk your life in the middle of a mission of vengeance. Well, actually, no. We're twice removed from that. Not your main mission is vengeance. Your secondary objective is to go save Tommy. You're gonna put both of those things on the back burner to go save this random kid that you're seeing get mugged by WF soldiers. And then later, when he brings up, hey, the community that's like fostered you and cared for you, and she's like, well, fuck the community. I don't give a shit about that. It's like, okay, well, what does Ellie in the show care about? Because I'm kind of having trouble keeping track with what is and isn't a priority for this character. And that was one of the, like you said, I had a few moments this season, but for me that was the one, like similar like what you were talking about with Dina and her story, where you're just kind of like, whoa, this came out of nowhere. The same thing where I'm like, what's going on with this character right now? Like what I don't know what is a priority for her and what isn't. And that sucks because that was not and didn't get called into question at all for the game.
Definitely.
Yes. I think I have one more criticism. I know we have a lot of criticism, but my last criticism, I think, is how they structured the season as a whole, because as many people know, I'm not a fan of how they did The Last of Us Part 2, the game. I don't think that it represented Joel's character properly, to basically have him fall into a trap of Abby killing him, and that whole sequence I don't like personally. However, what I will say is the entire rest of the game is more powerful from that moment. And all of the story decisions around The Last of Us Part 2 revolve around that moment. And them starting season 2 of HBO series, showing Abby right away and revealing that Abby is her father was killed by Joel, that was a huge mistake. Like that's completely contradicting what the entire purpose of the way that story is framed in the game is. Like that's literally the entire purpose of that narrative, is to send Ellie on this killing spree towards Abby, and not realize the full motivation of Abby's side of it until very late in the game. And I think that's a pretty big miss, even for someone that doesn't necessarily like the way that happened in the game. I recognize that everything else in the story has to happen that way for that, like that has to work that way. So it's like, I don't know.
It seems like they did not have confidence in the format, because what's funny now is like looking just when the final episode aired and like looking at socials and seeing what people were talking about, is like the change didn't even work in the way that they wanted to, because people are still thinking like fuck this Abby person. I don't give a shit that Joe killed your dad. And it's like so the gambit didn't even pay off. You're better off just doing what you did the first time, which is not give people any idea as to why she's there or what she's doing, and then we can figure it out in the third season, right? Which, and again, like I said, people the reaction seems to be that people don't even care that you tried to soften the blow. So very strange. And it's even, I mean, this is the thing. People think that because Neil Druckmann is an advisor or even wrote an episode that he has like creative control of the series. He doesn't. It's not. It's Craig Mazin's show. So I don't think it's necessarily, I don't even know necessarily that Neil Druckmann wanted them to make this change or that he told them that they should. It was a very, very strange choice to make. I don't know what they were thinking, but obviously it didn't pay off, because people, like even in my family, are just like, I don't really give a shit about this Abby person. And it would have been better if they're like, if we came out of this second season, people were going, oh, so what's this deal with Abby? Who the fuck is she? Like, that would have been, I think, a better way to leave the season.
And would have brought people interested in watching season 3, because they would have been like, what's
more intrigued? Absolutely, yeah.
Interesting. Do we have any other criticisms of the show?
There was one that I was thinking about, but I lost it. Oh, it's a super quick one. The when Ellie is going to the aquarium, but then she crashes on the Seraphite island. I was like, but why?
That was silly.
Back to our theme of unfocused. Yeah.
Oh my god! And she gets off the island.
Yeah.
But it was only for the change that Gage was mentioning with the kid, just to prove that like you shouldn't stick your arm out for random people. The same kids that are part of this group would sell you out immediately, I think was the point. But like, you didn't have to do that if you didn't do Gage's thing in the first place. Yeah.
Did that point have to be made in the first season of the show? Could we not have waited and got that point in the third season, right? And that actually, I was thinking about it as you were talking earlier, but same with the Isaac stuff. Like, I like that we're getting more Isaac stuff, but I'm thinking about it, I'm like, do we need the Isaac stuff now, or could we get the Isaac stuff in season 3, where it almost seems like that would make more sense? And that's the same thing. And what's going to be even more interesting, and they've backed themselves into a corner now, but without getting into spoilers, what happens to Ellie? Are they going to reuse that set piece for, if you think back to the trailer, one of the trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, one of the earliest cutscenes we got with Abby, something that happens. I don't know if you guys,
I know what you're talking about.
Is because they did something. It's very strange. I don't know why they did that. That was probably one of the, again, it's a small detail, but it's like, what were you thinking when you did this?
And to your point too, like, I think that it would have been more interesting if they would have framed Abby as this murderous, like, psychopath, and not even shown Isaac, and they don't even talk about their other community. Because as soon as you bring in the fact that they're with another community, it lends some kind of like sympathy for them because they're a part of something bigger. And like, it would have been far more interesting to wait till, like you're saying, season 3, and then you introduce and say, oh no, wait a minute, Abby and her friends are part of this bigger group, and then Isaac and all of that can come into the fold as well. Like, that just seems more interesting. I
do have one more nitpick with the writing, and this is more to the soap opera thing of like let's just have this happen because it needs to happen. But there's a scene pretty late in the series where Ellie and Dina get jumped by a bunch of stalkers, and then Jesse ends up coming in and saving them. There is a moment where Ellie, this is right when Jesse comes to save them. Ellie is like pinned down by 3 stalkers. One's biting her arm, one's biting her stomach, and one's biting her leg, and she's screaming. And then Jesse comes in and shoots them all. And he has his gun pointed at Ellie because he just saw with his own eyes that she was getting chomped on.
Yeah.
And then Dina screams from a cage 20 feet away, no, she didn't get bit. Trust me, she didn't get bit. And that's the end of that. Nobody has any follow-ups. Nobody has any questions. Jesse doesn't feel compelled to check her for bites. Very, very strange. And again, just a hint of that Walking Dead quality writing where it's like, what are we doing here? Why have her get pinned at all? Why, or like physically get bit by these stalkers if you're just gonna have her get saved in a couple seconds anyway? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That jumped out to me though. I was like, okay, Jesse, the rules guy, the we must follow protocol guy is like, oh, she's good. Okay, cool. I just saw her get chow down on, but that's fine.
And that, I think that's sort of brings us to like some positives. Like, I think, well, sort of positives from season 1. Like some of my favorite moments from season 1, despite what some other people may think, I personally liked a lot of the changes that they made in season 1 and like the additive stuff that they added in season 1. And like, I think that's the moments that we needed more of. Those are the moments that we needed more of in season 2, like what we were talking about earlier with Tommy. Gosh, I blanked on Tommy's name for a second. Like with Tommy reconciling with his brother's death, like that's the kind of stuff we needed more of. So, what other positives were there from this season? I think. Oh, the first when Jackson gets overrun, I thought that the infected, like that entire sequence of like the infected and climbing walls and like all of that sequence, I liked like that kind of stuff. And I think we probably could have done with more infected the rest of the season, because it feels like they threw a lot of their money at that one episode for infected.
Right. It seemed not very well thought out where they were like, oh, people want more infected, so let's throw them all. Let's have this big battle sequence in the second episode and that'll satisfy them. I would have happily just taken, instead of Dina and Ellie walking through empty streets joking, it's like, why don't you just have these small little set pieces where they have to just navigate it? Doesn't even have to be a firefight every time. Just have these set pieces where they have to
sneak around,
use their ingenuity and sneak around and make distractions and stuff like that. I think that the Jackson. So I mean, when you say what are the positives of the show, it still has a lot of really good positives. I would say the makeup department is still absolutely insane in terms of the infected and the cordyceps. Like, it looks awesome. It's funny, I said, I guess the makeup and costume department, I guess it's kind of a mixed bag, because at the same time, everybody's wearing brand new clothes as well, so that's a little silly. But when it comes to the infected, at least, and the scars looks really cool too. I think the Jackson attack is interesting. There are certain moments where when, I was going to say Gabriel, that's not his character's name, Tommy is giving instructions and they clearly have like a protocol for what happens. I was really interested in it. The problem is that they just take it a little bit too far, where they have like a World War Z amount of zombies coming up, where I'm like,
true.
Well, I've seen these guys struggle to withhold like 3 or 4 infected at once, but now they've got 600 at the gates and they're able to hold their own. And I think it got a little bit silly when as soon as they broke down the wall. At first, I was like, oh, are we doing a major detour where like Jackson gets over? Like, it seemed like too much water came onto the ship for the ship to stay afloat, if that makes sense.
Right.
When it comes to the Jackson attack, even though I agree with you, the visuals of it were awesome. I absolutely loved it when Maria went to the kennels and let the dogs out of the cage.
Oh,
I was watching it with
yes.
Lynn, and she was like, "No, why is she doing that?" But I knew right away. I was like, "No, these dogs are gonna fuck these
That was
infected
awesome.
up," and that was a great set piece. But at the same time, I think they did kind of turn it up to 11 just for the sake of turning it up to 11 and not really thinking what is the real world consequences of having 300 infected inside your town. I don't think that you would realistically be able to recover from that. But it definitely was cool to see like the firing lines and them releasing the barrels of oil over the fence and having all these sort of like traps set up. That was very cool stuff.
Something that I liked was one thing how the actual fight ended and encounters ended, but I liked how the stalkers were introduced in the third episode, but I really liked how they're introduced reintroduced when Dina and Ellie were together, where there was one and then it's like, oh shit, there's a bunch of them. I liked how those characters were or those infected were in the show. They felt scary, and I liked how the actors acted around them, like they were genuinely terrified by these new like variants that they hadn't encountered yet. So I liked the stalker encounters. I thought those were tense for a season that lacks tension.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like every single one of my positives is followed up by a negative. But one thing that just popped into my head, I think Bella Ramsey does an amazing job as, in my opinion, or not amazing. I think she does a really good job as Ellie, as a young version of Ellie. And I think, it would have made a lot of sense to bring her back for the flashback episodes of this season and then recast her role to someone who's older, because like that is still something I struggle with season 2, where I look at her and I'm like, she does not look like the proper age, and like she doesn't match her counterpart with Dina. She doesn't like visually match what my idea of, and we all have issues with like the character writing with Ellie in the show, but like putting that aside, like the visual aspect of it, I still struggle with that aspect of her being an older version, more mature version of Ellie. And think that could have been done a bit differently. But I enjoyed her in the flashback sequences, where I feel like she did a really good job, especially in the museum. I think she did those scenes pretty well. So I don't know.
I think the character writing definitely exacerbates that issue too, right?
Yes.
Where it's like it's you're getting it from both fronts, and I think it doesn't have anything to do. Excuse me. I don't think it has anything specifically to do with Bella Ramsey. It could be
Right.
It could be any actor that you hire.
Correct. Yeah.
That is really youthful looking. If you
Yes.
have a time skip that's supposed to be 5 years in a show, and you bring them back and they look the same, right? It's almost like the opposite problem you have with Stranger Things, where it's like the characters are supposed to be the same age, but the actors are aging. If you get a really youthful looking actor and you're supposed to have this big time jump, I mean, that's a problem that you're going to run into regardless of who you cast. But nobody wants to say it, but I do agree with you, Dan. Like, it was hard to imagine her as this, 21-year-old woman, where it's like, and you got to think in apocalypse terms. I mean, people are older than, like, a 16-year-old in the apocalypse is going to be a much more mature person than a 16-year-old in a healthy, thriving society. You have the luxury of being a kid. So it's like she's it's not even the fact that she's supposed to be 5 years physically older, but she's supposed to be 5 years of doing patrols and life or death and all this stuff. And it does not help with the writing and with how sort of flippant she is. But yeah, I had the same issue as well. And I think the fact that the actor that plays Dina did such a good job with that, I think also kind of unintentionally, she's great. She's really, really great in this. I think that unintentionally kind of made Bella stick out a little bit more as well.
For sure. Any other positives before we move on?
The soundtrack, Gustavo kills it still. one of the best soundtracks of any franchise.
Very good soundtrack. And Abby, Caitlin Devers, right? She does a
Caitlin
great.
Dever, I think.
Yeah, she does a great job as well. I think she's
Mhm.
very good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Body type, but like physical structure aside, there were like some moments like at the end when she was doing her thing to Joel, where like the facial stuff, I was like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Abby, that's Abby. Like, and I went,
And
when I went back to check like the cutscenes, I was like, oh, she just copied that facial reaction and she nailed it. Like,
yeah,
it was really cool.
It's funny because like she's physically not as big as
Right.
Abby, correct? But the physicality that she brings, she has the
Yeah.
same sort of militant, like this stiff kind of like overbearing presence, and she nails it. Even though she
Yeah.
doesn't actually have the same, she doesn't have the biceps, but she has like the attitude and the way that she commands a room, the presence, exactly. Yeah, she was also another standout for me this season, even though she had like maybe 6-7 minutes of screen time.
yes. And the difference between her and Bella Ramsey's physical differences is that the viewer doesn't have a perspective of Abby from, back in the day where they're like, oh, she didn't have a big time jump or whatever. So like this version of Abby in the show is the only one that people have never played the games know. So they don't know that there's like another like buff version. So like they see this version of Abby and they're still like, damn, yeah, she's physical as hell, regardless of what she looks like. So
True.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, so I guess any closing thoughts before we move out of the topic of the show? Any other closing thoughts on season 2 of The Last of Us?
I hope they take feedback and I don't know, come out swinging with season 3. I think in my mind, I would say season 1 of The Last of Us is an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty great season of TV, and I think for me, season 2 has been downgraded to like a 7. It's not anything extreme. It's not totally bad, but it's a noticeable downgrade in terms of its writing. And for me, The Last of Us, what people remember, I mean, Last of Us is considered one of the greatest video games of all time, and it's because of its writing. That is the most important thing, right? And so I worry that, especially with a very successful first season, that sometimes people let it get to their heads and they think, okay, well, we're going to keep doing The Last of Us, and The Last of Us is zombies and it's fungus and it's this and it's that, and it's like, it's not, it's the writing. That is what has cemented The Last of Us in the video game Hall of Fame. So I just want them to double down on that for the next season and really pay attention to the writing, because I think that's the most important thing.
Agreed. Yeah, that's all I got to say too.
Echoed.
Yes.
Great closing thoughts, Gage. That was for all of us. All right, let us move into the PXN news of the week. The first item here, guys, Donkey Kong Bananza got its direct. We learned some new information about the game. There's some new ways to smash and bash. You're going to be able to use all kinds of abilities as Donkey Kong. They also announced co-op play by sharing a Joy-Con 2 controller. You and a friend can control Donkey Kong and newly announced Pauline separately in local co-op play. I think it's a younger version of Pauline. You can unleash Pauline's vocal blast using the Joy-Con 2 controller's mouse functionality. And you can also use Game Share to share the game and play in co-op with another player locally, even if they don't own the game themselves. That's good.
Very cool.
They also talked about a bunch of collectibles, new and familiar faces, including Donkey Kong and Pauline encountering the elders, familiar faces like Cranky Kong and his companion Rambi. You'll also come face to face with Grumpy Kong, Poppy Kong, and others who work for Voidco leader Void Kong. We also got to look at Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong as well. A little glimpse. They also talked about new creative game modes, which includes photo mode, where you can change the in-game camera angle, just like any other photo mode you would recognize. But there's also an interesting mode called DK Artist, where you can use the Joy-Con 2 mouse controls to take a break from the action and carve designs into stone. You can even change the lighting and add banana effects to give your masterpiece its finishing touches. That is actually pretty neat. I saw a bunch of different creations that they made for this, and I could see people making all kinds of crazy shit in there, like good and bad.
Yeah, a little bit of both. It reminds me of like the stage creation tool in Smash Bros, where people would again make some really cool stuff, but some really cursed stuff. So I'm excited to see what people create with that.
Yeah. Overall, I'm very excited for this game. I think this game is the one that highlights the Switch 2 the best for me thus far. So I'm excited to play this.
Yeah, I agree. It looks pretty fun. Looks like, I think this is the Odyssey team. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like Odyssey times 10, but with Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
It looks really. I like how open the spaces are.
Yeah.
Just like Odyssey, but yeah, it looks really fun and pretty.
In the freedom, like they talked about how you can there's different ways that you can get past different puzzles, which is just super cool. Like they have this one that they showed where there's like a metal grate that blocks your progress, and you can either like dig under it, like you would think to do originally is just dig under it, but then they're like, well, also you could just fucking hit into the wall here and go all the way around through the wall, and it's like that's so cool, like to have different pathways. Just really neat.
Love that. The Breath of the Wild effect.
Yes, absolutely. For Donkey Kong working underground. All right. So that leads us to our other PXN News of the Week item. The next generation of Xbox has been officially announced. Xbox put out a minute video, mainly with Sarah Bond, talking about the future of Xbox as a hardware service as well as software. Essentially confirming that they're working on a next-gen Xbox with AMD as their partner once again, and they are also mentioning a handheld, like a first-party handheld, despite the rumors that it had been canceled. So it seems like we're getting multiple devices from them. And they also had some very interesting statements, which one of those statements Sarah said was that future console plans that's a weird phrasing, will not be locked to a single store or tied to one device. And then she says, Xbox will ensure that Windows is the #1 platform for gaming. So interesting that she said Windows, and interesting that she says will not be locked to a single store or tied to a single device. That makes it sound like their next console and handheld are going to essentially be PCs running Xbox as an app, essentially, and you can still get to other platforms like Steam, Epic Game Store, etc., which to me is very exciting if they can make it work in a very intuitive and console-like way, which I feel like they may do, because it sounds like a lot of the Xbox OS team have moved over to basically rebuilding the Xbox app and Xbox environment on Windows, and I have hope that they're going to revitalize that and make it a console-like experience, so that when their next-gen console comes out and the handheld comes out, it'll be very good for both console gamers and PC gamers that want to use the Xbox service as well.
wonder if this is also them trying to course correct for a lot of third-party developers complaining about the Series S, where
Absolutely.
like now this seems like such a future-proof way of thinking, where it's like, well, let's just make our next Xbox a Windows platform, and then that's
Yeah.
one less gate for them to hurdle, right?
One less
Yeah, this,
platform to develop for too.
exactly, right. And we don't we don't know how much Windows this next thing is going to be, but if it is
Yeah.
just full Windows, right? If it is essentially, I think the best case scenario for this is that it's essentially like Steam Big Picture mode, right? Where it's
Yep.
pretty much just like, yeah, this is just Windows and it's just got an Xbox skin on it, and that's it. This is nothing but great news. This is super exciting. I woke up to you with text messages from you talking about this. We've got a lot of friends who refuse to elevate to the PC platform, so now they can stay under their rocks, and we'll bring the PC to them. Yeah, I mean, this is nothing but good news. This is very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
As long as they get the OS right. I just want to have a good, seamless OS.
And performance.
Yeah, there is some complications like drivers and that kind of stuff. I don't know how they'll work that out, but I don't know. It will be interesting.
I mean, yeah, here's hoping that maybe there's ways around it though, right? AMD, whatever chips they design for them, whether it's do we know if they're doing like an SoC or if it's a more classical kind of?
That's a good question. I don't know.
So I mean, one way they could get around it, right, is that if the say they do the classic CPU and GPU combo, AMD could kind of, whatever they give them could be very, very similar to their what's the word I'm looking for? Consumer level stuff that you buy for your PC, right? You keep that as similar as possible so that the developers working on it kind of it's a bit more seamless, but yeah. Who knows?
And it could alleviate issues where you have developers that don't really want to develop for Xbox as a hardware platform anymore because the install base is so small, because you have Windows, you have all these other ways to play. So like it makes a lot more sense to have it just on Windows, because then developers are already releasing on Windows. And I mean, hell, even Sony's releasing on Windows. So you'll have PlayStation games theoretically on the next gen Xbox, which is interesting.
Yep.
All right. Into the quick bites we go. A Silent Hill 1 remake is in the works from Bloober Team. This was announced during Summer Game Fest. It was like right after Summer Game Fest. Kind of interesting that they decided to make Silent Hill 2 remake and then go back and make 1 remake. Like, why wouldn't you just start with 1? I don't know. But cool for Silent Hill fans, nonetheless. They did a great job on 2. And then MindsEye has officially launched, and it has been an absolute shit show. This news story brought to you by Rockstar. Make sure you buy GTA 6 next year. No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke from one of our previous stories where apparently people are being paid.
That's what Rockstar wants you to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Somebody who's taking money from Rockstar and wants to throw people off their tracks would say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So their troubled launch has continued with reports that the developer is canceling sponsored streams last minute, and some players are securing refunds. The developer has now issued a statement saying they are heartbroken over the game's difficulties. And yeah, it hasn't
Like, I didn't
been
make it.
it hasn't been good for them.
What the heck?
They're sitting at a 34 OpenCritic and a 37 Metacritic. Not doing well critically or commercially. And also, I think PlayStation made a statement that they were giving refunds for this game. So, not good.
Not good.
Not looking good for that. Yeah, it's almost like the video game equivalent of Thoughts and Prayers, where it's like, we're just absolutely heartbroken that this game didn't launch right. Motherfucker, you launched it.
That was you.
That was you.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was actually watching what's his name? Moist Critical play this game, and he likes bad games, but even him was like, this is awful. This is so bad.
It's just broken.
It's broken, and the story was wonky. The animation for like the cutscenes was like, this isn't terrible, but then he goes into actually playing the game. It's like, oh, and it's apparently it's like the same missions over and over again. Like you're just switching between these drone missions, and then the shooting missions are like very similar. It's like, oh,
Jesus.
okay. So they made 2 levels in different places. Yeah. And I guess it's buggy too. It's like the game kept crashing and all that kind of mess. What a mess.
Disaster. Rockstar, you can send the check in the mail now. Our next quick bite. Sony is still committed to live service games despite their issues that they've had, and of course their failures such as Concord, and insisted that Marathon will be out before April 2026. This was posted on June 13th, mind you. Here we are, June 17th, yesterday. Marathon has been delayed by Bungie. They posted a big update here, but essentially their immediate focus areas are going to be upping the survival game, giving more challenging and engaging AI encounters, more rewarding runs with new types of loot and dynamic events, making combat more tense and strategic. They also want to double down on the Marathon universe with increased visual fidelity, I'd say, for especially the outdoor areas. More narrative and environmental storytelling to discover and interact with, a darker tone that delivers on the themes of the original trilogy, and also adding more social experiences such as a better player experience for solo and duos, which is what people wanted, and proximity chat so social stories can come to life. We'll hear more from them this fall, they said, so they can share the progress that they've made alongside the game's new release date. Overall, I'm happy with all these changes they announced, and I'm happy that Sony is giving them more time to fulfill what the game should actually be, because it was very clear that the game needed more time.
Yeah, I think it's good news, and it's promising that it's an indefinite delay. I think we both agree that they needed a delay. I think the worst version of that could have been them giving like a January date or something like that, where it's like, I like that we're not going to get an update until when the game should have, until after the game should have launched.
Yeah.
And then they can assess from there because this game might need 6 months, it might need 8 months, who knows, right? Like, but this is good. I obviously, Bungie is one of those names that you want to stick around, but the game, from what I played, it was in a really rough spot, and especially does not help when you have games like oh god, Arc Raiders. That's the one.
You forgot it because you don't believe in it. You don't believe in it.
Stop. Rockstar is just paying you to say that. Yeah, it doesn't help when you've got competition in the exact same genre as you that's blowing it out of the water. So yeah, definitely take all the time that you guys need. And hopefully Sony is patient with them and gives them that.
Absolutely. Gage is about to get real excited on this one. Voice actors for both John Marston and Arthur Morgan keep saying that an RDR announcement, Red Dead Redemption announcement, is coming this week. Are we getting a RDR 2 next gen version? Is this a Switch 2 version?
Or not. What we're most likely getting, Dan, I already went through this emotional roller coaster. Okay, as soon as this was said, I went into full detective mode online. He's since walked this back, by the way. What this really is, because his original announcement did seem like something big was happening. More than likely, it's gonna be like a Red Dead podcast or something that they're all doing together.
What?
Yeah, because it sound like something Red Dead that you guys are gonna love, but like you got to think he's like, I don't know. I think they're thinking that fans really want to hear more from the actors on the game, and that's probably what this is gonna be, something like that. Because he immediately walked it back in a video I think he released today.
You know
and
what?
It sounded like somebody from somebody from Rockstar, maybe HR at Rockstar, gave him a call and was like, "Yo, slow your roll."
You know what?
I
Rockstar
would love
paid you
for
to
this-
say that.
Or Rockstar paid me to pay them to say that to say this. I think I would love for this to be a Red Dead 2 next gen update. I'm skeptical. I think this is going to be them doing like we're doing a Red Dead live playthrough with me, Dutch, and Micah and
God.
Arthur and join. Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. I would love to be wrong. I would absolutely love to be wrong.
Oh man, my Discord camera just decided to blur like no other. But anyways, we also, as I fix this camera, we also got an announcement that Borderlands 4's price is actually going to be $69.99 after all. After all the real talk of who's real gamers and who aren't, it's going to be $70 when, you know, Randy Pitchford said,
Now,
I don't have any control over this.
Was it $70 all along, or is this like, did one thing cause the other?
Right.
Because it was definitely in the headlines, right? Like,
Yeah.
his skirmish with his fans and is like just bringing unwanted attention. I would not be surprised if it was $80 and then was brought down in crisis mode, because they're like, all right, well, we're already going into this launch. Thanks, Randy, for not keeping your fucking mouth shut. Now we're already on an uphill battle. Let's just knock it down $10. I think either scenario is equally possible. I'm not sure that it was $69.99 all along.
And if it was the more expensive version, imagine if he just stayed quiet, because the previews came out and people are really liking it. So he could
That's true.
Like if he just didn't say anything,
That's
and
true.
they kept that price point, the previews came out, and then the price came out, maybe people would be like, okay, I could see why they upped the price for this.
That's true.
But
Right.
now they can't do that.
I love the
If they
idea
did change it.
of people at Take-Two that just like it's total headcanon, but I love the idea that just Randy Pitchford makes enemies everywhere, and like even his bosses are like,
Fucking
"Can this
Randy.
fucking guy just shut the fuck up?"
Yeah.
Please? Like they're like looking at their projections that they had mapped out for $80. Like, all right, well, reduce it by 2 million because we're fucking
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. The
yeah. And yeah, Bro's right. I don't see it written in here, but I just want to bring that out that
Yes.
apparently the previews are extremely positive for
They
this
are.
game. Like it's a really like impressive sequel, which I think you and I talked about this on the show. I was on board for just more Borderlands, more lighthearted fun,
Yeah.
but apparently it's like a really well thought out, mechanically sound sequel. So that's even more exciting.
And
It would be really great if your CEO wasn't constantly hindering your fucking progress at every opportunity.
You know why it's turning out to be such an amazing, like, well thought out sequel? Because Randy Pitchford was too busy fucking sitting at the Borderlands movie set while this game was being made. That's the irony.
He was too busy accosting Kevin Hart on the set of Borderlands.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
exactly. Yeah, this game is
man.
great in spite of Randy, not because of him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I've heard people say that it's a lot like the tone is a lot darker. It's not as like humor filled
Oh,
humor,
interesting.
like cringe humor from the third one. They still have it
Yeah.
apparently, the humor, but like they took a darker tone with this one, which sounds pretty cool to me.
Does sound cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Borderlands 3 was really like the games have always had like been very humorous and like comical, but Borderlands 3 really dialed it up to the extreme where it was just like it was a bit too much almost. You couldn't take it seriously.
And it was a super safe sequel. Like it was
Yes.
just yeah. The other versions of the game now cost more. There's a deluxe edition that costs $99.99, which comes with a bounty pack bundle, which comes with a bunch of post-launch DLC. And then there's also a super deluxe edition, which comes with that same bounty pack bundle, but it also comes with a Vault Hunter pack, which comes with 2 new playable Vault Hunters, new story missions, etc. So the interesting part about this, though, is that I was reading some of Randy's responses. They don't even know what the fuck the DLC is yet. And that's my only problem. Like, I've always been like fine with like these expansion passes when they save you money, like you can buy expansion passes ahead of time, but that's with the caveat of knowing what you're getting. Like, for instance, Forza Horizon had always like 2 big expansions, and they would say, yeah, we've got this expansion and this expansion, and you can buy them both together for $40 instead of buying them for $50 separately, or whatever the price is.
Right.
I like that because it saves money. But like, to fucking have this in here for these super duper deluxe versions that you don't even know what the fuck they are, I don't know. I don't know about that. Okay. Moving on to the next story. Hideo Kojima made significant changes to Death Stranding 2 after playtesters thought it was too good. Yeah, it's too good.
That is the most Hideo Kojima bullshit I've ever heard. People are unanimously enjoying this. Let me just...
Yeah. Kojima said that he was opening up about the problem of having players like Death Stranding too much. That means something is wrong, Kojima told him. We have to change something. There's a key moment where we had a discussion probably halfway through when we were doing the game where he came to me and he said, we have a problem. Then he said, I'm going to be very honest. We've been testing the game with players and the results are too good. They like it too much. That means something is wrong. We have to change something. And he changed stuff in the script and the way some of the crucial stuff happens in the game because he thought his work was not polarizing and not triggering enough emotions. According to Kojima, if everyone likes your work, it means it's mainstream. It means it's conventional. It means it's already pre-digested for people to like it. I don't want that. I want people to end up liking things they didn't like when they first encountered it, because that's where you really end up loving something. I don't know if I agree with him. I see the premise, but if you're playtesting something and is playtesting very well, I don't know if I agree that, let's just completely change this because too many people are liking it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I guess that's why I'm never into the Hideo Kojima games.
I wonder if Dan would have liked it if he was there.
That maybe, yeah. He would have been like, Dan likes this. Fucking get rid of it.
We gotta change it. When the first headline you mentioned, like he's changing it because it's too good, I was like, that's ridiculous. And then I heard the response that you just read, the quote, and I kind of get what he's trying to say, but I also don't completely agree with it either, because maybe they liked the polarizing stuff. Like, you could like things that are quote unquote bad, or is like in The Last of Us. I like The Last of Us, but like horrible shit happens in that game all the time that I don't like. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they were talking about what the playtesters were specifically talking about. Kojima seems to be talking about the story. So that's kind of weird to me that he is like, oh, these guys really like the story, we got to change it. As opposed to like, if it's gameplay stuff, like I don't know. I don't know why we want to change gameplay stuff that people like either. But I understand what he's kind of trying to say, though, where he doesn't want it to be too vanilla. He wants it to be Kojima, and Kojima is his stuff is very crazy. So I could see why he wants to elicit that reaction that he's been known for. But at the same time, it's like, you don't want the game to be bad, right?
It's an interesting dilemma because normally we say, let the creatives make the game that they want to make. And it seems like he made the game he wanted to make, and people really, really liked it. And they said, actually, never mind, I don't want to make that game anymore because you are having too positive a reaction. I don't know. It's the problem I have with Kojima as a whole, is that it's giving the sort of film snob energy where it's like, oh, this is too accessible. Let me artificially make it inaccessible because that'll give me clout. And it's like, sure, like, I guess, whatever. But like sometimes sometimes like you get The Dark Knight, which is an accessible movie and also is fantastic.
True.
Like you don't have to artificially make something convoluted just to make it convoluted. I don't know. Very strange. But then again, that's Kojima, right? Like that's just who he is. And that's part of the charm.
Actually, Gage, The Dark Knight is an overrated movie. 2025.
Christian?
All right, the last quick bite here. I thought I would mention this just because I was surprised. Dune Awakening, which is that MMO, is actually doing pretty well. It's sitting at an 80 right now on OpenCritic, and I've seen a lot of people playing this game and having a good time with it. So shout out to them for seemingly putting it together and making a pretty decent game. But let's jump into fantasy draft check-in, which it's been a while since we checked in. So we have a lot of movement that has happened. Let's go all the way back to May 31st, where Dan dropped the game Marathon. What perfect timing to drop it before it gets the delay that I knew was coming. So I ditched that, even though I wasted $20-some on it. Whoops.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a whoopsies, but we'll recover. Row acquired the game Mafia: The Old Country with a bid of $5. Let's go. I'm excited for that. Row also acquired Reanimal with a bid of $5. Row also acquired Trails in the Sky first chapter with a bid of $5. Row came in and took my game that I dropped which is totally fair. He took Kirby Air Riders with a bid of $10. We'll see if that was
Yeah, we'll see. If that was a good idea, if it's coming out this year.
And then Christian acquired Lumines Arise with a bid of $5. And then I actually forgot that I did this on June 14th. I think we were talking about this game. I picked up with my newly opened slot from dropping Marathon, Mina the Hollower with a bid of $3.
Smart.
Hell yeah. So, going over onto the points side of things, we have quite a few updates here. Mario Kart World got a release, and Mario Kart World is currently sitting at... Where is Mario Kart World? There it is. 87 on OpenCritic for a whopping 17 points for Christian right now. And then we got Elden Ring Night Rain, which I don't think we talked about last time, and that is at 11 points at an 81 for Christian as well. And then we also have Lies of P Overture, also for Christian, for 14 points, released during Summer Game Fest. So Christian with a whopping 3 games released right there. That's huge for him. So Christian is sitting at 5 games released with 78 points. I'm so used to him being in last. I shouldn't have read him first. Whoops. I forgot what those 3 games releasing. He actually jumped you guys. Yeah. So actually, I apologize. Ro, you're sitting in last with 39 points with 3 games released. So you only have 3 games released. You still have GTA 6 that you still have to drop.
Yeah. I remember to do that.
You have plenty of room there to make it up, though. Lots of slots, lots of chances. And then Gage, how does it feel to be back in second to last place with 57 points? You have 4 games released.
I'm not commenting. It's not worthy of a comment.
And then, of course, I just mentioned Christian sitting at 78 points with 5 games released. And without further ado, Daniel is sitting in first. But of course, I have the most games released. I have 7 games released with 98 points.
Damn.
A look at some upcoming releases that we have. Rematch is actually out tomorrow, so we should start seeing reviews trickling in for that for Gage. We should have a result next week for that. Gage picked up Rematch.
Please don't be broken at launch. Please don't be broken at launch. Please.
We also have Death Stranding 2 for Christian coming on the 26th, which is, I believe, next week. And then we have EA Sports College Football 26 for Gage coming July 10th. And then I have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 on July 11th. And then we have Donkey Kong Bonanza on July 17th for Christian. And much further games down the line. Rose's next game is Mafia the Old Country on August 8th. There's a look at our upcoming Fantasy Critic. I just want to point out that the projections now show that Roe is going to be in last place.
No.
But you also have a lot of games to pick up. So once you pick up some games, it may be like
Hopefully.
yeah. All right. So moving into our final segment, what you got for me, Dan? What you got for me? Well, I have good news, guys, because on my trip down on vacation, I actually got to play The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 2. And let me just tell you, it runs like butter on the Switch 2. I love playing that game at a solid frame rate. It feels really good to play. And basically, I just played a bunch more shrines. I just spent the entire time searching out some of the shrines that I had not completed yet, and had a lot of fun with that. So, yeah. And then also, I am over halfway done with Doom: The Dark Ages. Yes, I am on track to finish a fucking video game.
You're on track to stop 2 hours from the finish line and never pick it up again.
Fuck off. I'm going to finish it. I'm enjoying the Doom: The Dark Ages. I think maybe it's my least favorite of the series, and that's not to say that it's a bad game or anything. I still very much enjoy it. It's still very much just more Doom, essentially. It feels like a very safe sequel, even though it felt like they were going to make a lot more sweeping changes. It doesn't feel that significant when you're actually playing it. And there is these moments that I feel like you get into these moments where it feels like you're being sucked into like a certain action. It sometimes feels a bit too on rails for me. Like a good example of this is like when you're flying around on the dragon and like you do all these cool things, and then you get to like a moment where you're supposed to like land at a certain area. Well, I quickly discovered that no matter where your dragon is at, like when you're going to that area, it fucking sucks your dragon like backwards. Like literally your dragon gets sucked backwards into like the exact position that it needs to be for the animation to play. And it's so jarring. It takes me out of it every time it does it. And I'm just like, okay, like there could have been a better way to do this, because every fucking time it does that. So that does take me out of it a little bit, but I am enjoying like a lot of the new upgrades and stuff like that for the shield. The shield's a lot of fun to use. But overall, and I'm enjoying it. Good game. Nice. But Ro, what you got?
Nothing this weekend or this week, but last week, since we skipped What You Got For Me, I will say what I did then. I played Mario Kart World. Now, I don't have a Switch 2, but my girlfriend's brother does.
Oh.
So I got to go over to their house and play it with them. So Switch 2 is really cool. He just let me hold it for a little bit. So wow, I want one of these. I want one of these bad boys. And the magnets, like people are saying, they're really powerful. They work. The system, I think, looks really nice. Like it's a lot bigger. I think it's bigger than the
It
OLED
is.
as well.
Mhm.
The screen size, yeah, everything about it is like, oh, this is a really nice, pretty handheld system. But the game itself, Mario Kart World, is fun. I enjoyed it. I like how they have all the characters. The open world stuff is actually pretty fun. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much. I like the little challenges that they have sprinkled out throughout the map, and there's like little races that you can. It's like Forza Horizon,
Oh.
but Mario Kart World is not to that extent, obviously. But it's cool to see like you're just driving around the map, and then like a race will pop up, and you can start and get like a collectible if you pass the time challenge and stuff like that. But the actual racing is, I find like there's a skill ceiling, which is very interesting for people who have played Mario Kart for their whole life. That they have this new game to master now, and it's because of the wall jumping and the wall or the grinding on the rails that can like completely change how you win a race, because you can like skip entire like bends by doing this. Like I've seen clips of people online just like hopping off the track on purpose to bounce off of a wall that is like floating off the track, and then they go onto a rail and they hop back onto the actual track, like just passing like 5 people in the process. I'm not that good at doing it yet, but and doing it is tricky too. Like you have to like be close enough, but you also have to charge up as well. So you have to like prepare yourself and be ready for the right moment. So it takes a lot of driving over and over to understand when the best moment to do it is. But at the same time, I feel like there's not, even though that requires skill, the general racing I've noticed doesn't, because it still does that thing where if you're in last place, it gives you the best items. So you zoom all the way to the front, and almost everybody knows that. So there's people online who, I forget what it's called, but there's a term for it, but they purposefully hang back and wait for the last minute to get like a bullet bill and just shoot to the front of the line. And it's like, oh, that's not fun. and everybody's doing it. So obviously it's more fun to play with your friends and just not do that. But yeah, that's the only thing. And knockout mode is really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. Like it's really tense, and if you're playing it correctly, it could be like a really fun party mode. And I think I got
with balloons. Is that the one with balloons?
No, that's the new mode where there's like 24 racers. And you go through 4 maps, and you keep going until there's like 5 of you, I think. So you have to reach a certain threshold each race. So like say you're in 24th place on the first race, you get knocked out. But if you are in the top 16, you continue until the knockout is over. But yeah, that one's pretty fun. I enjoyed that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely want to get a Switch 2 someday, but still not yet. It's still $700. I mean, it probably won't go down in price, but yeah, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. I also don't know if they're even in stock in my area anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I was upset with it, well, 2 things. The OLED display on the original, or on the OLED Switch, way better screen, like in terms of the colors and such. But the new Switch is bigger, so that's like a big plus.
True.
And then my other gripe is the battery life is fucking horrible.
Oh, is it bad?
It's like, yeah, it's literally like the original Switch, because if you remember, the original Switch was bad.
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Yeah.
That's my only 2 gripes. My nephew, I actually let my nephew play on my OLED Switch when we were driving down to Florida while I was playing on the Switch 2, and he was playing for fucking hours and hours without plugging it in, and mine died, and I'm like, what the fuck? You're only at 70% battery, and I'm dead, or whatever it was.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Switch is a day 1 Switch, and it barely lasts.
Oh.
If I'm playing handheld, it's like, if I get to an hour, that's lucky.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Gage, what you got for me?
I've got a lot of stuff. This last week, last 2 weeks maybe was Steam Next Fest. Lots of developers upload demos that you can try for their games. And so I didn't play as much as I wanted to, but I try to make a point every year to try out a bunch of games, a bunch of indie games. So I played a few. Some of them have been on our lists that we've talked about before. So I'll start off. There's a game called Ferocious, which is a Far Cry inspired dinosaur game. We've seen it at a bunch of showcases. And I played that for about 20 minutes and it felt like shovelware and it was not very good at all.
Oh.
Yeah. I think you might have been perked up for it a couple of times that it came up and I was curious about it as well. Not a very good game at all. Not very good. And that's I don't want to harp on the guy because it's a small developer, but not good.
Damn it.
Next I played the sequel to Moonlighter, which is I think maybe the first third-party game I bought on my Switch. It was a fantastic game, cannot recommend it enough, but the sequel had a demo. Played that. I only played it for about 30 minutes because I was sold and I'm like I don't want to ruin the experience for myself. So Moonlighter 2, I think it's called The Endless Vault. Very, very good, very promising. Excited to jump into that when that releases. I played a game called Easy Delivery Co., which is like it's like this cutesy little delivery game that's like in PS1 style graphics.
Of course.
Where you play as it almost looks like Animal Crossing, but if you were to give it like a PS1 sort of filter on it, where you play as like this little cat that's delivering packages in Tokyo or in somewhere. And it's very cute. It's very cozy. This game would be very, very good on a handheld, playing it before bed or something like that. There's not a lot to it, and I think the game needs a little bit more. But I will say this video game has maybe the coolest pause screen in the history of video games ever. Very, 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 very cool. What they do is like you press the pause screen, and it comes up on the screen, and it's almost like it's like a desktop. That's like the style of it, and you you use I was playing it on controller, but there's a little cursor on screen, and then you go click on settings, and it's like a little folder, right? And it opens up. But then I realized, because it keeps every time you get a new tutorial, it pops up on your screen as a text, and you click on the text folder and you read it. But eventually your pause screen just gets filled with all this stuff, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I realized that like it's actually emulating a desktop. You can grab the settings and drag it to like the other side of the thing. And like when there's tutorials that you don't want anymore, you can click it and drag it to the recycle bin, and it just gets rid of it off of your pause menu. It's such a small thing, but the way it feels to use, it's such a cool little idea. So shout out to them, the coolest pause screen in any video game ever. Very, very cool stuff.
Also, if you want Gage to buy your game, just put manual labor in it.
Exactly. Put tedious little things in it that I will think are cute, and then I will buy your game. And then
what was
last,
called again? Sorry, I just want to
Easy Delivery Co. Company. You would dig it, Ro. Depending on the price that it comes out, because there's not a lot to it, but it is very comfy and very cozy. And then the last, but certainly not least, I played this for over an hour and a half. All Will Fall, which is a survival building game, which it's like you're stranded on like this ocean little platforms, and you got to build your little survival thing. Yeah, you and I both were like, oh, this looks interesting. Daniel, let me tell you, you will like this game a lot. This is the perfect amount of like involvement for me in terms of like a city building sim. And I say city quote unquote because you're kind of building like this little raft. But you have to manage physics. So like you're trying to craft bridges to go to these other little areas to get more resources and build all this stuff. But if you build a bridge that's too long, then like it'll collapse, and if you build structures on top of that, they'll collapse as well. Very, very fun. I got totally sucked into this. The hour and a half blew by in like a second. This is one that will be a day one purchase for me. This game was very fun, and Dan, I recommend that you try this. If there's ever another demo, or if it goes on Game Pass or something, you got to try this because I think you'll actually really dig it a lot.
There's an
very
open beta right now, apparently.
Is there?
Yeah, I'm looking on Steam. It says open beta.
Give it a download, man. It is the perfect amount of like involvement when it comes to a city builder. It's great. It's really really good. Art style's fun, very comfy to play. All will fall. Big recommend from me.
Hell yeah. Gage is playing Did you play Jump Ship or no?
The guys weren't around. I tried.
I
but
know
the boys
it was just
were
poor
not around.
timing. It was poor timing.
It was poor timing. I'm gonna wait. I would like to try it with the boys, so I did not. I did download it, and it was looking at me the whole weekend, but I was like, no, I'll wait for the lads.
Fair enough.
Easy delivery code looks rad.
Yeah,
Add it to the wish.
totally your vibe.
Yeah.
Totally your vibe.
Rose also ready to do some manual fucking labor.
Absolutely. And you know what? One of the tags are, Dan?
What's that?
Relaxing.
Relax.
It was very, and it has that very nice like PS1 style like ambient music where
know
it's
what?
just kind of like synth music. It is very very comfy.
You know what also is relaxing? You talking about the recycle bin on that game where you're dragging stuff to the recycle bin. You could go ahead and just do my job for me, and then that'll be very relaxing for you.
Hey, why don't you get me a job there and I'll do it?
No.
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 we aren't hiring, Gage. We aren't hiring. We're fully staffed. All right.
Well, I'm not going to say anything.
What?
Never mind. I'll say after the show.
All right. Thank you again to everyone joining us live on YouTube and Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast. Thank you, Ro. Thank you, Gage. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love, and keep on gaming.
See ya.
Adios.